Emily's peaceful life with her beloved horses was shattered when the HOA suddenly tried to ban them, citing unfair and baseless reasons. At the center of this storm was Carl, the HOA leader, whose greed and manipulation threatened to destroy not just her animals, but the community's trust. But then, Emily discovered a surprising legal loophole, registering her horses as service animals. That changed everything. Just wait until you hear how this bold move turned the tables and led to a hard-fought victory for justice. My name is Emily, and horses have been my passion for as long as I can remember. Growing up, they weren't just animals to me. They were my closest companions, my sanctuary from the world's noise and chaos. Today, I have 3 horses, Buck, Luna, and Spike. Each one has a personality all their own, and together, they've become my family. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a place where neighbors share a love for peace, open spaces, and a strong sense of community. For years, I poured my heart into caring for my horses in my backyard, and over time, many neighbors came to appreciate and even admire the gentle presence of Buck, Luna, and Spike grazing peacefully just beyond the fence. But then, out of nowhere, everything changed. The calm routine I had come to cherish was shattered by an unexpected and harsh decision from the Homeowners Association, the HOA, the very group that was supposed to protect the interests of our neighborhood. One afternoon, I received a letter that hit me like a thunderbolt. I was no longer allowed to keep horses on my property. The reason, according to the HOA, my horses didn't fit the neighborhood aesthetic and posed potential risks to the community. I couldn't believe what I was reading. How could something that had been part of my life for so long suddenly become unacceptable? How could the place I called home demand I give up what I loved most without warning or fair discussion? The shock was overwhelming. It felt like a personal attack, like everything I had built was being taken from me on a whim. The person leading this charge was Carl, the president of the HOA. I'd met him a handful of times before, and he always came across as polite but distant. Now his true intentions became clear. He insisted that my horses caused noise disturbances and created unsanitary conditions. But anyone who knew me and my horses would tell you otherwise. Buck, Luna, and Spike were calm, well cared for, and respected by everyone around. It soon dawned on me that this wasn't really about the horses. It was about control, about money. Carl wanted to sell the land behind my house to developers who had been circling our neighborhood like vultures, and my horses were standing in the way. The blow was crushing. The very people I trusted to safeguard the community's values were turning against me and the animals I loved. It was more than just rules or regulations. It was a betrayal that left me reeling, struggling to make sense of how quickly my peaceful life was unraveling. As the initial shock wore off, it was replaced by a fierce, burning hatred. The more I learned, the clearer it became that Carl, the HOA president, wasn't acting out of concern for the community's well-being at all. His true motives were far darker and far more selfish. I discovered that he was secretly planning to sell the land where my horses had peacefully grazed for years to a developer hungry to build luxury homes. This wasn't about rules or safety. It was about greed and control. What cut even deeper was uncovering how Carl had been fabricating complaints. He twisted facts, manipulated other HOA board members, and silenced anyone who dared to defend me or my horses. Neighbors who had once admired Buck, Luna, and Spike were ignored or bullied into submission. It felt like a carefully orchestrated campaign to crush not only my dream, but also the voices of those who stood with me. Each warning letter I received felt like a personal attack, a cold, calculated dagger aimed at breaking my spirit. Fines piled up, threats escalated, and still Carl pushed forward, relentless in his pursuit. The cruelty and dishonesty behind it all fueled a fire inside me. How could one man's greed threaten to upend the lives of so many? How could he wield power so carelessly, trampling over what mattered most to me? I refused to let this injustice go unanswered. The more Carl tried to intimidate me, the more determined I became to fight back. I wasn't just fighting for my horses, I was fighting for truth, fairness, and the community we were supposed to be a part of. The battle lines were drawn, and there was no turning back. Late one night, feeling exhausted and desperate after endless back and forth with the HOA, I found myself scrolling through online forums, searching for any possible legal loophole, any way to protect my horses and fight back. That's when I stumbled across something surprising: service animal laws. I had always thought service animals were only dogs or cats, but the law was more flexible than I realized. It turns out that other animals could qualify as service animals if they assist with specific medical or psychological needs. My mind raced back to my therapy sessions and the prescription from my mental health provider for equine-assisted therapy to help me manage severe anxiety and depression. Buck, Luna, and Spike weren't just pets. They played a crucial role in my mental well-being. Could this be the key? Without hesitation, I started the process of registering my horses as official service animals. I gathered all the necessary documentation and certifications, carefully following every legal step. When I finally presented the paperwork to the HOA, the room's atmosphere shifted instantly. Carl's usual smug confidence was replaced by confusion and frustration. He argued, protested, and tried to find a loophole of his own, but the truth was undeniable. Legally, he was powerless. My horses now had protected status under the law, and the HOA's attempts to ban them crumbled. What's more, my stand inspired other neighbors who were terrified they might lose their own beloved pets to the same unfair rules. Together, we found strength in this unexpected strategy, standing united to protect what mattered most. In the end, the HOA had no choice but to back down. The legal protection granted to my horses forced them to abandon their attempts to ban us. What started as a lonely fight quickly transformed into a community movement. Neighbors who had once stayed quiet found courage in my story, and many began registering their own animals as service animals, standing up against outdated, unfair restrictions. Carl's grip on the community's power slowly unraveled. His attempts to silence us and push his agenda became impossible to maintain under the light of truth and justice. The neighborhood began to change, not just in rules, but in spirit. We had reclaimed a sense of fairness, respect, and shared purpose. Today, Buck, Luna, and Spike symbolize so much more than just companionship. They are living reminders of resilience and the strength that comes from standing up for what's right. Every morning, when I see them grazing peacefully in our backyard, I feel a deep pride and gratitude. We endured a harsh and unfair battle, but we won together. This experience has taught me an invaluable lesson. Never underestimate the power of standing your ground. No matter how overwhelming the odds, fighting for what you believe in can bring about real change. And most importantly, never let fear silence your voice. Our community is stronger now because we refuse to be broken.